The grand halls of the Concordia station shimmered with light as the galaxy's most brilliant medical minds gathered for the annual Intergalactic Medical Symposium. Representatives from over 50 species had come to showcase their cutting-edge techniques and exchange knowledge. Among them, for the first time, was humanity, a relatively new addition to the galactic community. Dr. Claire Reynolds, a trauma surgeon from Earth, stood nervously at the center of the main lecture hall. She was no stranger to pressure, but the crowd of alien faces staring at her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism was overwhelming. Humans were from a Category 5 death world, a planet filled with dangers unimaginable to many of the species present. To them, humans were brash, crude, and overly aggressive. What could they possibly offer to advanced intergalactic medicine? Taking a deep breath, Claire adjusted her lab coat and smiled. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began. Her voice echoed through the room, calm but firm. "Today, I'll demonstrate some of humanity's first aid techniques designed for high-stress, resource-limited environments. For this, I'll need a volunteer." The room fell silent. Alien students exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, Orcs, a brave Zephyrite with translucent, glowing skin, raised one of his many appendages. "I will volunteer," he said cautiously. Orcs lay on the examination table, his shimmering appendage stretched out as Claire prepared her equipment. She began explaining each step to the audience. First, let's imagine Orcs here has suffered a severe laceration to his primary appendage. On Earth, blood loss is one of the leading causes of preventable death in emergencies. So, the first step is stopping the bleeding. She pulled out a tourniquet, a simple strap with a tightening mechanism. Wrapping it around Alex's appendage, she twisted the device until it compressed the simulated wound. Gasps filled the room. "She's cutting off his fluid circulation," whispered a reptilian Krathian in horror. "That's barbaric." Claire ignored the murmurs. A tourniquet is a life-saving tool in emergencies. It's not perfect, but it gives patients a chance to survive until advanced care is available. Next, she sprayed antiseptic onto the simulated wound. The sharp smell made several aliens recoil. Earth is filled with microorganisms that can cause deadly infections. We've learned to be aggressive in cleaning wounds. Finally, Claire pulled out a small device resembling a stapler. This is a skin stapler. It's used to close large wounds quickly. It's not pretty, but it's effective. With a series of sharp clicks, she demonstrated how to close the wound. The sound echoed in the silent hall, where disbelief and fascination hung thick in the air. When Claire finished, the room erupted into conversation. A tall, feathered exenalian stood, his colorful plumage rippling with agitation. "Dr. Reynolds, your methods are so crude." "A tourniquet? A stapler? We use biogels and nanobots that heal without causing additional harm." Claire met his gaze without flinching. "I understand your concerns, but Earth's conditions are unique. Our methods reflect our need to work fast, sometimes with limited tools. On a battlefield or during a disaster, time is the most critical resource." Another student, a glowing Caltharian, raised a question. "But aren't these methods painful? They seem harsh." "They can be," Claire admitted, "but pain is secondary to survival. On Earth, we prioritize saving a life over making the process comfortable. That's the reality of our world." The room buzzed with heated debate. Some dismissed Claire's methods as primitive, while others were intrigued by their practicality. To test the effectiveness of each species' medical techniques, the symposium organizers announced a surprise competition. Teams from various species would stabilize a simulated injured patient in a chaotic battlefield scenario. The goal was to ensure the patient's survival as quickly as possible. Claire joined her human teammates, Nurse Priya Singh and Lieutenant Marco Alvarez. When the signal to start was given, chaos erupted. Holographic explosions and cries of simulated pain filled the air. "Marco, apply a tourniquet to the left leg," Claire ordered. "Priya, start an IV line." The humans moved with practiced efficiency. Claire applied hemostatic gauze to the chest wound and sealed it with a vacuum dressing. Marco and Priya worked quickly to stabilize the patient's vitals. Around them, alien teams used their own methods. The Exenelians carefully applied biogels, which took several minutes to activate. The Krathians deployed intricate nanobot systems, while the Caltharians relied on symbiotic organisms to heal wounds. The human team finished first, stabilizing their patient in under 5 minutes. When the results were announced, the room fell silent. The humans had not only completed the task the fastest, but also ensured their patient's survival with a high degree of success. After the competition, several alien students approached Claire, their skepticism replaced by curiosity. Orcs, the Zephyrite volunteer, said, "Your methods are harsh, but I see their value. They prioritize survival above all else. Perhaps we've been too quick to dismiss your ways." Claire smiled. "It's not about which method is better. It's about learning from each other. Every technique has its strengths." By the end of the symposium, humanity had earned a newfound respect. Their methods, though unconventional, reflected the resilience and adaptability of their kind. For the alien students, it was a humbling reminder: never underestimate a death worlder. When chaos struck, humanity's unstoppable will to save lives, the Concordia Station, a gleaming hub of intergalactic cooperation, floated peacefully above a vibrant blue planet. It was home to the annual Intergalactic Medical Symposium, where the brightest minds from across the galaxy gathered to exchange knowledge. Among the attendees this year was Dr. Claire Reynolds, a trauma surgeon from Earth. Though humanity was a recent addition to the galactic community, their reputation as inhabitants of a death world preceded them. Most alien delegates were curious, yet skeptical about what humans could offer to advance medicine. As Claire sat in the lecture hall, listening to Exenelian doctor explain the intricacies of their self-regenerating biogel, a deafening boom echoed through the station. The lights flickered and the ground shook violently beneath her feet. "Emergency alert," a robotic voice announced. "Explosion detected in Section C. Casualties reported. Medical personnel, please respond immediately." Panic swept through the station. Alien students and doctors scrambled to gather their equipment, many clearly shaken. Claire, however, was already on her feet, her medical bag slung over her shoulder. "Follow me," she called to a group of alien students standing frozen. "We need to get to Section C now." The group hesitated, exchanging uncertain glances. Finally, a young Zephyrite named Orcs nodded and followed her lead. A few others joined, their fear evident but overshadowed by a sense of duty. As they approached the damaged section, the extent of the chaos became clear. Smoke filled the air, sparks flew from exposed wires, and injured individuals lay scattered across the floor. The station's automated systems were trying to contain the fire, but the situation was spiraling out of control. Claire knelt beside a bleeding Krathian, her movements swift and precise. She pulled out a tourniquet and secured it around the alien's injured limb. "Apply pressure here," she instructed Orcs, who looked unsure but complied. "What are you doing?" a feathered Exenelian student asked, his voice trembling. "Shouldn't we wait for the emergency nanobots to arrive?" "There's no time to wait," Claire replied firmly. "If we don't stop the bleeding now, he won't survive long enough for the bots to help." She cleaned the wound with antiseptic and applied a hemostatic agent, explaining each step as she worked. "On Earth, we've learned to work with whatever we have. Speed is critical in situations like this." The Exenelian watched in stunned silence as Claire moved on to her next patient, a Caltharian with a deep chest wound. She sealed it with a vacuum dressing, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. The alien students were amazed by Claire's efficiency. They were used to advanced medical technology that could take care of everything with precision, but it often required perfect conditions to function. In the chaos aboard Concordia Station, much of that technology was inaccessible or damaged. "Your methods are crude," a Krathian student admitted, watching as Claire stapled a wound shut with a small handheld device. "But they work." "They have to," Claire replied without looking up. "On Earth, we don't always have the luxury of perfect tools or ideal conditions. We make do, and we make it count." As the hours passed, the alien students began to assist Claire more confidently. They applied tourniquets, started IV lines, and even stapled wounds under her guidance. Their initial hesitation faded as they saw the results of these primitive methods. Meanwhile, the station's automated systems began to regain control, extinguishing fires and stabilizing the environment. Additional medical teams arrived, bringing more advanced equipment. But by then, many lives had already been saved thanks to Claire's quick thinking and the techniques she shared. When the situation finally stabilized, the station's commander addressed the gathered medical teams. "We owe a great deal to all of you who stepped up during this crisis. But I'd like to give special recognition to Dr. Claire Reynolds and her team of students. Your quick actions saved countless lives." The room erupted in applause, though Claire looked slightly embarrassed. She turned to the alien students who had assisted her. "You all did amazing work today. Remember, it's not about the tools you have. It's about how you use them." Olex, the Zephyrite who had been one of the first to follow her lead, nodded. "You've shown us that sometimes simplicity and speed can achieve what complexity cannot. Thank you for teaching us." The story of the explosion aboard Concordia Station spread quickly throughout the symposium and beyond. For many, it was a humbling reminder of humanity's resilience and adaptability. Their methods, though unconventional, proved that even in the face of chaos, lives could be saved with determination and ingenuity. For Claire, it was another day's work. But for the galaxy, it was a revelation. Never underestimate a Death Worlder. The Galactic Medical Exchange Program was a prestigious opportunity for students across the galaxy to learn about the diverse approaches to medicine. For Olex, a Zephyrite medical student, it was supposed to be a chance to showcase his advanced techniques and superior understanding of biological science. Instead, it had become a strange and uncomfortable experience. The program had sent Olex to Earth, the infamous death world that he had only read about in xenobiology texts. It was a planet teeming with aggressive microorganisms, dangerous animals, and unpredictable weather. Olex had heard the rumors about human resilience, but he dismissed them as exaggerations. Humans, he believed, were simply reckless beings who thrived on chaos. Olex's first day at St. Mary's Trauma Center in New York City was overwhelming. The hospital was bustling with activity. Doctors and nurses moved with purpose, their faces calm but focused. It was unlike the serene, controlled environments Olex was used to on his home planet. Dr. Claire Reynolds, a seasoned trauma surgeon, greeted Olex warmly. "Welcome to Earth, Olex. We're excited to have you here." Olex nodded politely, though his discomfort was evident. "I'm curious to see how you handle medicine on such a challenging world." "Challenging is one way to put it," Claire said with a smile. "But you'll see we've learned to adapt." The first case Olex observed was a construction worker who had fallen several stories. He had multiple fractures, severe bleeding, and a collapsed lung. As paramedics wheeled the patient into the emergency room, the human medical team sprang into action. Claire immediately began issuing orders. "Tourniquet on the leg. Start an IV and prep for a chest tube." Olex watched in disbelief as the team worked with what seemed to him like primitive tools. A tourniquet? He considered it barbaric. On Zephyra, such injuries would be treated with advanced regenerative biogels and nanobots. "You're cutting off circulation," Olex remarked, his voice tinged with disapproval. "Isn't that dangerous?" "It can be," Claire replied, not missing a beat as she inserted a chest tube to reinflate the patient's lung. "But it's also the fastest way to prevent fatal blood loss. In situations like this, speed matters more than perfection." Within minutes, the patient was stabilized and sent to surgery. Olex was left standing in stunned silence. The human team's methods were rough and fast, but they had worked.
Over the next few weeks, Olex continued to observe and assist in the trauma center. Each case was a lesson in human adaptability. He saw doctors treating burn victims with skin grafts grown from their own cells, using basic yet effective devices to close wounds, and improvising when equipment failed. One day, Claire invited Olex to assist in a surgery. The patient was a young girl with severe internal bleeding from a car accident. The advanced imaging systems Olex was accustomed to weren't available, so the team relied on experience and intuition. "Hand me the clamp," Claire instructed, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. Olex hesitated. "Are you sure this is safe? Your methods seem imprecise." Claire glanced at him, her expression firm but kind. "Medicine isn't always perfect, Olex. It's about doing the best you can with what you have." As the surgery progressed, Olex began to understand. The human team wasn't reckless, they were resourceful. They knew their limitations, but refused to let them dictate the outcome. Olex's perspective truly shifted during an unexpected emergency. A massive pileup on a nearby highway flooded the trauma center with critical patients. The staff was overwhelmed, and Olex found himself thrust into action. A young man with a deep leg laceration was brought to him. Blood poured from the wound, and the patient's vital signs were dropping. Olex froze for a moment, his mind racing. On Zephyra, he would have used a biogel, but there was none here. Tourniquet. Claire's voice cut through his panic. Olex grabbed the device and secured it around the patient's thigh, his hands trembling. The bleeding slowed almost immediately. Following Claire's guidance, he cleaned the wound, applied a hemostatic agent, and bandaged it tightly. When the patient was finally stable, Olex let out a shaky breath. "I didn't think it would work," he admitted. Claire placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You did great. Welcome to Earth medicine." By the end of the program, Olex's initial skepticism had transformed into deep respect. He realized that humanity's methods weren't inferior. They were different, shaped by the harsh realities of their homeworld. ASE prepared to return to Zephyra. Olex spoke to Claire. "I've learned more here than I ever expected. Your adaptability is inspiring. I think I'll bring some of these techniques back to my people." Claire smiled. "And maybe we can learn from your methods too. Medicine isn't about whose way is better. It's about saving lives." Back on Zephyra, Olex began integrating human first aid techniques into his studies. He adapted them for his species' physiology, finding ways to combine their efficiency with Zephyrite technology. When he wrote to Claire, months later, his message was simple. "Thank you for showing me what adaptability really means. You've not just changed my perspective, you've helped save lives on my world." For Olex, Earth had been more than just a death world. It had been a lesson in resilience, ingenuity, and the power of never giving up. The Galactic First Aid Competition was one of the most prestigious events in the universe. Organized every 3 years by the Intergalactic Medical Federation, it brought together teams from countless species, each hoping to prove their superiority in emergency medicine. This year, however, there was an unexpected entry. The humans, often referred to as Deathworlders due to their planet's harsh and unpredictable environment. The competition was held on a massive space station orbiting a neutral planet. The venue itself was a marvel of engineering, accommodating thousands of spectators and participants from across the galaxy. The challenges were designed to test every aspect of first aid: speed, efficiency, creativity, and the ability to adapt to unusual situations. For many, the presence of humans added a sense of curiosity and skepticism. How could these newcomers, hailing from a dangerous and chaotic world, possibly compete with species that had mastered medicine for millennia? From the very beginning, the human team stood out. Their approach was unconventional, blending practicality with an uncanny ability to think on their feet. The first challenge involved a simulated spacecraft crash, with multiple injuries requiring immediate attention. While other teams meticulously followed protocols, the humans moved with a sense of urgency that bordered on reckless but proved astonishingly effective. They used makeshift tools, adapted alien technology on the fly, and relied on their instincts to prioritize life-saving measures. One memorable moment came when the team encountered an alien participant injured in the crash simulation. The alien's physiology was unlike anything the humans had ever studied. While other teams hesitated, struggling to identify the correct procedures, the humans quickly improvised. Using a combination of observation and basic medical principles, they stabilized the alien in record time. The judges, a panel of esteemed doctors from various species, were visibly impressed. The next challenge tested knowledge and precision. Teams were tasked with treating a patient infected by a rare and rapidly spreading toxin. The antidote had to be synthesized from a set of provided ingredients, many of which were unfamiliar to the participants. Here, the humans' creativity truly shone. Instead of relying solely on the provided instructions, they experimented with combinations, drawing parallels to Earth's own venomous creatures. Not only did they produce the antidote faster than any other team, but their solution was also noted for its simplicity and efficiency. As the competition progressed, it became clear that the humans were unlike any other participants. Their strength lay not just in their knowledge, but in their ability to remain calm under pressure. One of the judges remarked, "They're used to chaos. On their world, danger is a part of daily life. It's no wonder they're excelling here." The final challenge was the most difficult. A live scenario involving multiple patients, a collapsing environment, and limited resources. The arena was transformed into a disaster zone, complete with simulated earthquakes, fires, and injured civilians of various species. Teams had to navigate the chaos, treating patients and evacuating them to safety. While other teams relied on predetermined strategies, the humans adapted in real time. They used everything at their disposal, from scraps of metal to alien plants, to create tools and medical supplies. At one point, they repurposed a malfunctioning drone to transport a critically injured patient to safety. Their teamwork was seamless, with each member understanding their role and communicating effectively. By the end of the challenge, the humans had not only treated the most patients, but had also ensured the safety of every civilian in the simulation. Their performance was met with thunderous applause, and even their competitors couldn't help but admire their ingenuity. When the results were announced, the humans were declared the winners. Their victory was not just a triumph for Earth, but a lesson for the entire galaxy. It showed that creativity, adaptability, and determination could rival centuries of tradition and advanced technology. In the aftermath of the competition, the humans were swarmed by reporters and admirers. Many alien species approached them, eager to learn more about their methods and philosophies. The team's captain, a calm and humble paramedic named Sarah, spoke to the media. "On Earth," she said, "we're used to thinking outside the box. Whether it's a natural disaster or a medical emergency, we've learned that quick action and creativity can save lives. We're honored to share what we've learned with the galaxy." The victory had far-reaching consequences. Human methods began to influence medical practices across the galaxy. Workshops were held to train alien doctors in improvisation and quick decision-making. The Intergalactic Medical Federation even announced a new program to study Earth's unique approaches to medicine. For humanity, the competition was more than just a win. It was an opportunity to prove their worth on the galactic stage and to build bridges with other species. Their triumph in the Galactic First Aid competition would be remembered as a turning point, a moment when the Deathworlders showed the universe what they were truly capable of.